morning, Whittier Wars. I'm Noah, and here with me is
Julie.
Welcome to the 24th edition of the Whittier Morning Tea. We're here to bring you the latest news from DC's very own Whittier Elementary School.
You're watching Channel 9 News, where we spill the tea, and the news is always piping hot and real.
And now for our breaking news story. Do you love to write and make art?
We thought so.
On March 8th, Whittier's Literacy Committee is hosting a Scribble Chronicles event with a very special guest author, David Miller, I Am a Chef, and visual artist Clarence James.
Students of all grade levels are invited and encouraged to create stories, poems, and visual art that will be on display for the event.
Students are invited to write and share their work. Use the template found on Class Dojo for stories and poems. Please submit presentable finished work to Ms. Garten by March 6th, 4 p.m.
Presentation of submitted work and commentary from our special guests will take place in the gym on March 8th from 4:30 to 5:30. Family, students of all grade levels, and staff are welcome.
In addition, light refreshments will be served.
That sounds like fun.
Indeed it does.
We'll see you there.
In other news, for One Book, One School, we are all reading Matilda.
It was a wonderful story by Ronald Dahl.
This book is about a young genius named Matilda Wormwood.
Matilda is neglected and mistreated by her father, Harry, her mother, Zinnia, and her older brother, Michael.
Smart and independent, she finds peace and comfort in reading books she finds in the public library.
Be sure to get your copy and join in on the fun. Readings are due each week, and each Wednesday we will have a trivia question about the book on the morning announcements. You can even win a prize.
This year we are continuing to implement a school-wide PBIS system to ensure that we are warriors every day, accepting, responsible, and engaged.
PBIS rewards positive behaviors to promote positive relationships. It addresses negative behaviors and promotes positive behaviors to improve academic success.
We use Class Dojo to track PBIS points, which are awarded for when our students show us that they are accepting, responsible, and engaged.
Students are able to redeem their points for prizes, and special field trips are organized for students with the highest percentage of points. Families can even track their students' PBIS points by logging into Dojo.
Restorative practices utilizes relationship and community building to deter negative behavior.
The intention of restorative practices is to keep students in the classroom by developing relationships with them and understanding the causes of negative behaviors.
Mr. Sims, our restorative practices coordinator, does an outstanding job with PBIS, and we are grateful for all he does to help us manage our behaviors and to celebrate our successes.
Let's go on location to ask him a few questions before find out how Whittier scholars use PBIS to do the next right thing.
Welcome back. We're thrilled to welcome Mr. Sims, our restorative practices coordinator, to our set.
Mr. Sims, can you tell us what PBIS is in your own words?
I sure can. Well, PBIS stands for Positive Behavior Incentive System. What we like to do here at Whittier is we like to reward positive behavior rather than punish negative ones. So it's a way for us to encourage positive behavior for all of our scholars.
Very interesting. Yeah. How do you decide what the prizes are and where you go on the field trips?
Well, that's a great question, Monica. What we want is feedback from students. So one thing I do know is students like donuts, so that's why we have donuts a lot. Also cupcakes. Also, for the last field trip, we went to the roller skating ring, which is a suggestion made by a student. So if you have any suggestions for a weekly field trip or weekly celebration or a field trip, please let me know.
Wow. How often do you have PBIS celebrations?
We have one every week, and then we have a field trip. We try to do it every month.
Thank you for joining us and for helping our school have a more peaceful and productive environment.
Well, I'd like to thank the students. So thank you guys.
Let's go on location to find out more with the Whittier scholars.
How does PBIS help you think about your actions? So if you don't get PBIS, it helps you think about like, what did I do and if I could fix it. Yeah. For next time.
How does PBIS help you think about your actions?
PBIS helps me think about my actions by making me do good stuff and knowing that I would get good rewards while doing it.
PBIS helps you think about your actions.
It makes me think about my actions, like it helps me do good, and it also helps me get that good food.
How does PBIS make you feel about your actions?
It makes me feel good about my actions and my grades that I love. I love my actions that I do, and they make me happy.
Think about your actions. Well, it helps us think about my action because it shows that I improved in a lot of subjects and that I've been doing well in subject. So I think it helps my actions because it makes me work hard and it makes me think about my earnings.
How does PBIS make you feel about your actions?
It makes me think about how I do on my actions and how I think of my actions.
Thank you.
Help you think about your actions.
Well, I think that PBIS helped me with my actions because if I don't get it, I should think I should do better. Because if I don't get it, I should do better, help people and stuff. So yeah, I think that just fix my behavior and try
PBIS help you think about your actions.
Well, it helps me think about my actions and how to change very much because I have trouble sometimes with trying to ignore people, so it helps me try my best, and then sometimes if I do get it, then I know I can keep trying, but sometimes if I don't, then I know I have to keep trying and make sure I don't let no one get in my way.
PBIS help you think about your actions.
PBIS helps me think about my actions because if I have good actions, I get rewarded and encourages me to be better at controlling my emotions.
PBIS help you think about your actions.
PBIS helps me think about my actions by when I do something good. It helps me remember that I'll do something, I'll get something back in return. So, like donuts, as we had donuts today. Basically, if you do something good, you'll get something good in return.
I'm Monica, and here with me is
Cindy. As you know, March is Women's History Month.
Today we will highlight another spectacular woman introducing Sonia Sotomayor.
Sonia Sotomayor is an American lawyer and judge who became a justice on the United States Supreme Court.
She was appointed to the court by President Barack Obama in 2009.
Sotomayor was the first Hispanic person and the third woman to serve on the Supreme Court.
Sonia Maria Sotomayor was born on June 25, 1954 in the Bronx, a part of New York.
Her parents moved to New York from Puerto Rico during World War II.
Despite these difficulties, Sonia did well in school.
A television series about the lawyer sparked her early interest in the law.
After high school, she attended Princeton and Yale universities. She earned her law degree from Yale in 1979.
After law school, Sotomayor worked as a lawyer in New York.
In 1992, President George H.W. Bush named her as a federal judge in New York.
In 1995, she decided a famous case between players and team owners in Major League Baseball. She ruled in favor of the players.
In 1997, President Bill Clinton named Sotomayor to serve on one of the U.S. Courts of Appeals. She was a judge for that court from 1998 to 2009.
In May 2009, President Obama nominated Sotomayor for the Supreme Court.
In 2013, Sotomayor published a book about her life called My Beloved World.
Now let's view a short video to learn more about the amazing woman.
Sonia Sotomayor is the first Latina U.S. Supreme Court Justice. She was born in New York City in 1954. Her parents were from Puerto Rico. Sonia grew up in the South Bronx. Early life. At age 7, Sonia was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. 2 years later, her father died. By age 10, Sonia wanted to become a judge. She was at the top of her high school class. She went to college at Princeton and law school at Yale. Life's work. Sonia became a lawyer in New York. She earned respect quickly. In 1991, President George H.W. Bush chose her as a judge for the U.S. District Court. Later, in May 2009, President Barack Obama nominated Sonia as a U.S. Supreme Court Justice. In August, Sonia became the first Latina to hold that position. She was only the third woman to be on the U.S. Supreme Court. Contributions. Sonia continues to fight discrimination. In 2019, she released a book for kids called Just Ask. It's about celebrating people's differences. Sonia is a role model for young people, lawyers, and judges.
Don't ask if you don't want to know. Don't ask if you don't want to know. Dear Mateo and Moby, who is Sonia Sotomayor? From Jessica. Yeah, I'd much rather try to explain this. Sonia Maria Sotomayor is one of 9 judges who sit on the Supreme Court. When she was sworn in, she was only the 3rd woman and the first Hispanic to ever hold the job. That's a big deal. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the land. Its decisions affect the whole country and can reshape our entire society. Like Brown v. Board of Education, which bans segregated schools. Or Miranda v. Arizona, which requires police to tell suspects their rights, like they can stay silent or request a lawyer. Even laws passed by Congress or orders issued by the president can be struck down by the court. Justices hold the job for life, but it wasn't the first job Sotomayor had wanted. In elementary school, Sotomayor wanted to be a detective. She'd been inspired by the Nancy Drew books about a mystery-solving teen. Nancy drove a blue roadster and counted on her father, a lawyer, for advice. Meanwhile, Sotomayor had been born to Puerto Rican parents in the Bronx, New York, in 1954. She lived in public housing with her mother and younger brother. Her father, who'd been addicted to alcohol, died when she was 9. But Sotomayor just knew she'd make a great detective. She was logical, good at following clues and solving puzzles. And she was capable. Her diagnosis of type 1 diabetes had taught her that. She'd been sterilizing needles and giving herself a shot every day since 1st grade. Well, there was a problem. Without good care, diabetics can get foggy or even pass out. Her doctor told her they weren't allowed to be pilots, firefighters, or police detectives. The law is different now, but when she learned that, Sotomayor was crushed. Luckily, she found new inspiration watching TV on Thursday nights. Perry Mason, a crusading lawyer who always proved his client's innocence. If she couldn't be a detective, she'd be a lawyer or a judge. She could tell he was the one who made all the big decisions.
Case dismissed.
Now at the time, that was almost as impossible as becoming Nancy Drew. Sure, there were a few trailblazers out there, but female lawyers still weren't common or welcome. Most firms wouldn't hire them, no matter how talented. Take Sandra Day O'Connor, a top law school grad in 1952. When she went looking for a job, she was offered one. As a secretary, she went on to become the first woman on the Supreme Court. Lawyers of color were pretty rare too. And if you were both? Exactly. But as she grew up, Sotomayor got used to being the first. Her father had only finished 3rd grade, but she was her high school's valedictorian. She was offered scholarships to the country's top colleges, then law school. Both places, she was one of the few Latinos on campus. She went on to a career as a big city prosecutor, putting away criminals for the state, and then a corporate lawyer, representing companies and big brands. She even got in some Nancy Drew-style adventure by tagging along on police raids. Once, the targets were counterfeiters who'd been copying her clients' products. When they ran off, Sotomayor hopped on a motorcycle and gave chase. She became known as a hard worker with a nose for details and untangling complicated ideas. In 1992, President George H.W. Bush nominated her to a federal judge's seat. Well, the United States has 2 court systems, state and federal. State courts deal with state laws, including most ordinary crimes and lawsuits. Federal courts were created by the Constitution. Their cases involve more than one state, or federal laws, or the government itself. Federal judges are nominated by the president and confirmed by Congress. Sotomayor became the youngest federal judge in her New York district, the first Hispanic federal judge in New York State, and the first Puerto Riqueña nationwide. She issued tons of big rulings, like one ending a 232-day baseball strike in 1995. Sports fans said she'd saved baseball. Later, she got bumped up to a court of appeals, which handles challenges to lower court decisions. And in 2009, President Barack Obama nominated her to the Supreme Court. She had more court experience than any previous nominee. You'd think she'd be a shoo-in, except, for years, Sotomayor had given speeches advocating for diversity on the bench. She thought judges' backgrounds and experiences could affect how they saw facts. Like Plessy v. Ferguson, an 1896 Supreme Court decision that allowed segregation. It ruled separate facilities for African Americans were legal if they were equal, but anyone who'd ever used them knew they were never equal. Justice O'Connor had said that when it came to good decisions, any wise person, man or woman, would reach the same one. Sotomayor disagreed. Having a diverse bench would mean considering more perspectives, she said, and sometimes a wise Latina's experiences could lead her to better conclusions. Yeah, during her confirmation, it became a whole thing. Some commentators and members of Congress called her racist, but Sotomayor stayed calm, visiting dozens of senators individually explaining her thinking. She also clarified, saying, "No ethnic, racial, or gender group has an advantage in sound judgment." In August 2009, she was overwhelmingly confirmed as the Supreme Court's 111th justice. Since then, Sotomayor has been unusually vocal, both on and off the bench. Supremes are usually pretty private, but she's tossed out baseballs, written bestsellers, and done countless appearances. On the job, she stands out for asking lots of questions and writing lots of dissenting opinions. Judges don't have to write dissents. They choose to when they disagree with a ruling and want to say why. And sometimes, dissents guide the way for reform later, which happened with Plessy. Speaking of dissents, I'll bite. What was that about? I knew I didn't want to know.
That's all the news we have for today. Be sure to tune in next week for another edition of the Whittier Morning Tea,
where we spill the tea and the news is always piping hot and real. I'm Monica and
I'm Cindy.
Signing off.
Have a peaceful and productive day and do it the Whittier Warrior way.
And remember, if trouble finds you, find the nearest adult
If trouble finds you, find a nearest adult.
Thank you.